Close your eyes and imagine a pitch-black cave 40,000 years ago. You hear the rhythmic metallic clink of flint striking stone. It's just the sound of survival, a tool being made. But suddenly, the rhythm shifts. The cold stone floor begins to vibrate under your feet. A guttural hum rises from the shadows, transforming into a bone-chilling melody that echoes off the limestone walls. What does it feel like when a survival tool becomes a masterpiece? Today, we are hunting for the precise moment a prehistoric flint-strike evolved into the world's first intentional beat. We are venturing into deep, resonant caverns to capture the heart-pounding moment where the noise of survival finally blossomed into a sacred, communal symphony. For millions of years, the world was filled with random, unpredictable noise. The wind howling across the tundra, massive predators roaring in the distance, avalanches crashing down mountainsides. Early humans were surrounded by an environment of total auditory chaos. But then, a bizarre biological shift began to happen inside the human brain, and it started with the most mundane chore imaginable. To survive the brutal landscape of the Pleistocene, you needed exceptionally sharp tools. And to get sharp tools, you had to meticulously strike specific rocks, like flint or chert, against one another. Whack, whack, whack. But anthropologists studying the ancient art of flint knapping realized something incredible. Creating a perfect Acheulean hand axe isn't just about smashing rocks together. It requires immense fine motor control and a very specific, consistent tempo. If you strike with the wrong angle or at an erratic pace, the vibration travels incorrectly, and the stone shatters in your hands, ruining hours of work. To prevent this, early humans had to fall into a groove. This physical exhaustion forced the brain to adopt what scientists call entrainment, the ability of our internal neural systems to lock onto an external rhythm. Making tools was highly repetitive, grueling labor, but pacing it to a steady beat made it easier. Without even realizing it, our ancestors were training their motor cortex to anticipate the next strike, effectively rewiring the human brain to recognize and crave a beat. The sharp crack of stone tooling wasn't just labor, it was humanity's first metronome. But a beat isn't music. To cross that line from a toolmaker's rhythm to an actual melody, humanity needed an amplifier, and they found it in the most terrifying places on Earth. Deep, pitch-black, labyrinth-like cave systems. When you venture deep underground with only a flickering animal fat torch, your vision becomes virtually useless. Early humans had to rely on sound to navigate, essentially using primitive echolocation, clucking their tongues, clapping their hands, or striking the walls to avoid falling into bottomless pits. But as they did this, they noticed something magical. When the modern science of archaeoacoustics is used to map prehistoric caves like Chauvet or Lascaux, researchers find a mind-blowing pattern. The most intense, elaborate cave paintings, the massive herds of bulls, the leaping lions, the overlapping handprints, are almost always located in the exact parts of the cave with the most extreme acoustic resonance. This wasn't an accident. Our ancestors actively hunted for the auditory sweet spots in the rock. They discovered that stalactites, when struck, produced pure, ringing tones, effectively becoming massive, natural lithophones, or rock instruments. We can actually see the physical chip marks on these formations today. By singing, chanting, or striking these rocks in these specific resonant chambers, the low-frequency sound waves would layer on top of each other. The cave acted as a giant natural synthesizer, distorting frail human voices into a haunting, chest-thumping vibration that sounded like the very voice of a god. Eventually, they paired this resonance with instruments, like the famous Hohlefels flute, carved from the hollow wing bone of a griffin vulture, officially bringing melody into the darkness. But why did they care? In a world where starving to death, freezing, or being eaten by a cave bear was a daily threat, why waste precious, scarce calories on making music? The answer is a powerful chemical weapon deeply embedded in our biology: dopamine. When human beings hear a rhythmic melody, especially a low-frequency bass that we can feel in our chests, our brains release a massive flood of dopamine, oxytocin, and endorphins. It literally alters our brain chemistry, lowering cortisol and calming the vagus nerve. In the brutal, unforgiving cold of the Ice Age, music did something that even fire couldn't do. It synchronized a tribe's internal biology. When 50 people are in a cave, stomping their feet in perfect unison to a pounding rhythm, the brain begins to blur the psychological line between self and group. This shared biological sensation created unbreakable bonds of extreme trust and hyper-cooperation. A tribe that entered a trance-like state and sang together was biologically primed to stay together. They communicated better, they coordinated massive, dangerous mammoth hunts with pinpoint accuracy, and they supported each other through devastating winters. Unlike solitary predators, early humans used rhythm to merge their individual minds into a single, cohesive super-organism. Music wasn't just a form of prehistoric entertainment, it was the ultimate evolutionary cheat code for survival. Our ancestors didn't just invent music, they were physically and socially transformed by it. The exact same acoustic frequencies and driving beats that triggered the first dopamine rush in human history are still echoing inside us today. When you stand in a massive stadium concert or feel the bass vibrating through the floor of a crowded room, you are experiencing the exact same biological magic that kept your ancestors alive in the dark.